Senegal is considered one of the most vibrant democracies in Africa, having had 4 presidents since 1960. This is a significant achievement on the continent, as most presidents at the time of independence stayed in power much longer. The West African country is widely regarded as one of the most stable democracies in Africa, with a long-standing tradition of peaceful democratic discourse. However, events surrounding the 2019 election have raised concerns, as some view the arrest of opposition leaders as being based on false accusations. Senegal's political culture was dominated by the Socialist Party for 40 years, but its grip on political life ended in March 2000 when Abdoulaye Wade, the leader of the Senegalese Democratic Party, won the presidency. Wade was then succeeded in 2012 by his former Prime Minister, Macky Sall, who remains the current president of the country. The legislative elections held on July 31, 2022 resulted in an unprecedented situation in Senegal, with no single party holding an absolute majority. The ruling coalition secured 82 out of 165 seats, while the remaining 83 seats were shared among 5 opposition coalitions. In March 2021, opposition leader Sonko was accused of rape. On June 1, 2023, he was sentenced to 2 years in jail after a 2-year trial that captured the attention of the entire country. The trial left the rights of women and victims of sexual violence either drowned out as an issue or sidelined. Sonko was accused of rape and made several remarks during the trial that women rights activists deplored. Immediately after the sentence, Sonko's camp blamed sitting President Sall, alleging that it was convenient for him to put his main opposition in jail just 8 months before the February 2024 election. President Sall had been in office for 2 terms and technically cannot run for a 3rd term. Many people believe that Sonko's fake accusations were due to his rivalry with Sall, who intends to change the constitution to run for a 3rd time. In this video, I will explain what is currently happening in Senegal, including who is involved and what is at stake. If you enjoy this type of content, please give it a thumbs up. To understand exactly what is happening, it is important to go back to 2000, when President Abdoulaye Wade was first elected. Abdoulaye Wade brought a fresh perspective to Senegal, with his tough stance on international relationships, particularly with the former colonial power France. He even implemented a constitutional change early in his term. The constitution, adopted in 2001, limits presidential terms to 2, reinforcing democracy's role in the country's political process. In February 2007, Abdoulaye Wade was re-elected in the first round with almost 56% of the vote. His campaign was a success, and a much younger politician named Macky Sall played a significant role in the campaign. Sall had served as prime minister under Wade from July 2004 to June 2007. As the head of the campaign, Sall worked closely with Wade and learned the ropes of leadership. Wade even referred to Sall as his best student. After his hard work on the campaign trail alongside Wade, Sall eventually became the president of the National Assembly. However, when the sitting president, Mr. Wade, argued that he could run again for the 2012 election, this created a shift in Sall's thinking. As the 2 presidential term limit was only introduced in 2001, it should not apply retrospectively to Wade's first term in office in 2000. Sall set himself on ensuring that the Constitution was respected. As Macky Sall's political career grew, he began to disagree with Wade and in 2008 launched an investigation into Wade's son. This resulted in a lengthy process, after which Sall created his own political party. He resigned from his post in the National Assembly and from the ruling PDS party and formed his own movement, APR Yakar. The political campaigning was intense, and Sall had the support of the youth who wanted change. There was a lot of suspicion that Wade wanted his son to become the next president. This affected the international image of the country as a democratic example for the rest of the continent. In the end, at the 2012 election, Mr. Sall won in the 2nd round, becoming the 4th president of Senegal. Once elected, Mr. Sall promised to reduce the cost of basic foodstuffs and reduce the powers of the centralized presidency. As president, he launched an ambitious development and reform program aimed at transforming Senegal into an emerging economy by 2035. The plan includes a variety of large infrastructure projects, such as a rail project, power generation, and a futuristic new city on the outskirts of Dakar. However, things get interesting when we look at the GDP growth annual percent chart for Senegal on the World Bank website. Since the start of his presidential career, Sall has overseen one of the biggest GDP growth rates in Senegal history. From 2012 to 2017, Senegal was on the list of emerging countries in the world. On January 30th, 2015, Christine Lagarde, the managing director of the International Monetary Fund, praised the country's democracy, legal system, education system, dynamic civil society, and strong civil service during a visit to Dakar. This sentiment was shared by many experts and supported by the numbers. However, at the height of his confidence, Sall launched a constitutional review in 2016, raising suspicions that he intends to run for a third term. From 2016 to 2019, the young people did not feel included in the growth, and President Macky Sall's popularity with them took a hit. In response to opposing criticism, Sall did not waste any time in putting away his opposition. In 2016, Karim Wade, the son of former President Abdoulaye Wade, was sentenced to 6 years in prison for corruption. Then, in March 2018, Khalifa Sall, one of Senegal's most popular politicians, was jailed on charges of fraud, which his supporters say were politically motivated. Khalifa Sall's imprisonment in particular left a void in the political scene, paving the way for new contenders. The barring of Khalifa Sall and Karim Wade from participating to the 2019 election raised eyebrows among voters. President Sall is perceived as part of the political elite that has held power for decades. Young people in Senegal are frustrated with the slow pace of change and the lack of opportunities. The youth of Senegal are also concerned about corruption and the concentration of power in the hands of a few individuals. This is where Ousmane Sonko comes in. In 2019, at 44 years old, Sonko is the youngest contestant in the race and a newcomer to the political scene. His youth plays to his advantage in Senegal, where more than 60% of the population is under 25 and anxious for change. Sonko made a name for himself in 2016 when he became a whistleblower, denouncing corrupt practices in the Senegalese elite. He was sacked over his activism, but his newfound prominence led to his election as a lawmaker in 2017. Ousmane Sonko is representing his own party, the Patriots of Senegal for Work, Ethics, and Fraternity, PASTEF. Sonko was unable to really compete, and in 2019 election, President Macky Sall was still able to win the election with 58% of the vote. However, in the southwest region of Ziguinchor, a significant number of voters supported the new candidate Sonko. Despite being a newcomer, Sonko garnered 16% of the votes in his first attempt at the highest office in Senegal, finishing third in the race. Most of his supporters in 2019 were young men from areas outside of the capital, Dakar. Following this defeat, all eyes turned to the 2024 election in which Sall would not be able to compete due to the end of his second term. Ousmane Sonko, who commanded a lot of attention, was expected to be a key figure in this 2024 election. Sonko was a new option for young voters, promising to stand up to external forces like France and work to offer them more opportunities. He also wanted tougher stances on corruption, specifically from Dakar's elite. Sonko is from the poor fishing and farming region of Ziguinchor and is very much an outsider in the country's internal politics. The region Sonko represents is not known for producing big politicians in Senegal. He posed a new test to the Senegalese political elite, which was made up of the same group of people from the capital, Dakar. In 2019, Sonko was seen as the voice of the disenfranchised and those who did not benefit from the country's economic growth. Could he become the fifth president of the country? Is he the young leader that Senegal needs to reach a new status in Africa?
The opposition calls for fresh protests in the country. The West African country is now bracing for further unrest as the opposition leader Ousmane Sonko has been charged with rape.
Controversy arose in early 2021 when Senegalese media reported that an employee at a salon where Sonko went to get a massage had filed rape charges against him. The 48-year-old is accused of raping Adij Sarr, a 23-year-old beauty salon employee, and issuing death threats against her. On March 3rd, 2021, while on a trip to Dakar, Senegal's opposition leader Ousmane Sonko was arrested in the capital just before his scheduled court appearance to face a rape charge. Hundreds of supporters rallied in the city, claiming that the charges against him were politically motivated. Sonko's arrest sparked protests across Senegal. One of his lawyers, Cheikh Kouraisi, said he has been notified of his arrest on charges of disturbing public order and participating in an unauthorized demonstration, like we rarely see in Senegal, and an estimated 14 people were killed and approximately 590 injured during the demonstrations, which were characterized by high levels of violence against protesters by security forces. Perhaps due to the unrest, he was offered bail but vehemently denied the allegations. 5 days later, on March 8, 2021, Sonko was released on bail. Following his release, clashes erupted between the police and protesters. Buses were set alight in the capital, Dakar, and disturbances were reported elsewhere, including in the city of Ziguinchor. These were violent protests like we rarely see in Senegal. The final verdict for the case is set for June 2023. In anticipation of the hearing, Sonko has urged the public to join in protest. Feminist activists argue that 2 years of reporting on this case is a rare opportunity to advance the rights of sexual violence victims. Others are concerned that this is a step backwards in the long struggle for female empowerment in the West African state. This trial is a huge setback that will leave a lasting impact on the history of women's rights, said Aminata Libaine Mbenge of the Feminist Network of Senegal, RFS. The case sparked intense debate in the media. Over time, the image of the victim shifted in the eyes of many young Senegalese. Adji Sarr, the victim, eventually went into hiding due to relentless threats and insults. She now only leaves her home under police escort. Her appearance has been widely criticized as vulgar, and her testimony is crude. This trial has prompted explicit media headlines, which have not helped the image of the victim, a young woman in the conservative country where 95% of the population is Muslim. It is also worth noting that Sonko's condescending language and his normalization of sexual violence have been widely condemned. In trial, he said the following: "Even if I had to rape, I would not rape someone who looks like a monkey that has had a stroke." Activists claim that the fact that Sonko's words were eagerly received and admired by a population made up mainly of young people is a grave concern, particularly for survivors of rape. Sonko, the leader of the PASTEF party, has denied the rape charges against him and accused the president of conspiring to remove him ahead of the 2024 elections, while his critics describe him as a troublemaker who is trying to avoid justice. The allegation against Sonko comes at a time of growing uncertainty over whether President Sall will seek a third term. Following the eruption of protests, the then Interior Minister, Antoine Félix Abdoulaye Diome, stated on television that the government regrets the loss of 4 lives in events that are rooted in banditry and insurrection. He accused Sonko of issuing calls to violence. Critics allege that the charge against Sonko was fabricated to remove him from the political scene in case Sall decides to change the constitution and run for a third term. It's worth noting that he was accused of using similar tactics against his opposition in 2019. Sonko is a candidate in the 2024 presidential election and is considered to be President Macky Sall's main competition. His arrest and claims of political sabotage have fueled suspicions that Sall is attempting to silence opposition ahead of the 2024 elections. In May 2023, Sonko's trial resumed after the court rejected pleas by Sonko and his co-accused for an adjournment. This was the second time Sonko had failed to attend the legal showdown. On June 1st, 2023, Ousmane Sonko was sentenced to 2 years in prison for corrupting the youth, but was acquitted of charges of raping Adji Sarr. As of June 6, 2023, the fate of Ousmane Sonko remains unclear. He has been sentenced to jail and is under state control. Security forces stationed around his house in Dakar have prevented him from leaving for several days. The country has cut off social media to limit protests and communication among Ousmane Sonko supporters. Protests have erupted throughout Senegal due to his sentence. The trial's move from rape to corrupting the youth has added to suspicions among the younger generation. President Macky Sall seems to be replaying the same card he used in 2019 before his re-election, putting opposition figures in jail. Although the trial of Sonko has been popular, it has put women's rights in a bad light and normalized the idea of rape. This is what is happening in Senegal, where democracy may be fading. Will Macky Sall try to run for a third term? Is Sonko a troublemaker trying to escape justice? Does France have a role in all of this? Are they seeing Sonko as a threat to the relationship they've built over decades with President Macky Sall? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I hope this video has helped you understand the situation in Senegal a little better. As Africa's most consistent democracy, I am hopeful that we will soon see a resolution to this fading democracy crisis. Please share your comments below and let's keep our attention on this issue. If you enjoyed this video, please share it with your friends and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one.